Right, good night. I'd like to call the April 8th, 2020 Planning Commission order.
Because then he can't hear it. I can't turn it off on here. Mike? Go ahead.
And let's start off by pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, this is our second night of doing virtual meeting. Trying to work all the bugs out. Jessica helping us with a lot today already. It'll be me having a few as we go along, so we'll do the best we can. When there's going to be a vote, it's going to be done in a roll call fashion. So I will have a first and a second, and when we get to the part of the vote, I will individually call your names, and you'll respond from there. So, as we move along here, item number 3, approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of March 3rd, 2020.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye when I call your name. Mr. Caston.
Aye.
Mr. Jenkins.
Aye.
Mr. Dolnick.
Aye.
Mr. Fleischman.
Aye.
Mr. Newman.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Starl.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Mr. Marichal. Commissioner Marichal, Max.
You hear me? Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hollister, aye. Motion passes by unanimous vote. Item 4, developmental proposals. Item 4A, number 1, CSM-20-003, create 2 lots located at the southwest corner of East Water Street, South Forest Avenue, by downtown West Bend Hotel Association. Applicant Craig Sedonico, agent Kevin Parrish. We have a presentation by Business and Development Planner Jim Renicky. Good evening, Jim.
Good evening, everyone. I can't share the maps or anything right now, but I will go ahead with the brief on this one right now. So this certified survey map is for 2 lots. It's located at the southwest corner of East Water Street and South Forest Avenue. The purpose of the CSM is to create 2 of the commercial lots. This is for the previously approved office building and hotel site downtown. Lot 1 is 1.8 acres and is the hotel site, and lot 2 is 1.38 acres, which is the office building site. Both properties are zoned MXD and comply to the zoning requirements. Both lots have access to East Water Street and South Forest Avenue through shared access easements. Utilities are available to both of the properties for the development. Separate documents are going to be created for the access restrictions, for the rights and restrictions of that, along with private storm sewer and drainage easements within the site. Technical corrections were needed on the CSM, and we have received those revised CSMs pending final review. Staff would recommend approval of the CSM with the 2 conditions.
Thanks, Jim. Any questions for Jim from anyone?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye when your name is called. Commissioner Caston,
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Dolnick,
Aye.
Commissioner Fleischman, Commissioner Newman,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Aye.
Commissioner Sparrow,
Aye.
Commissioner Marichal,
Aye.
Commissioner Hogaster, aye. Motion passes by unanimous vote. Item number 2, CM CSM-20-005, create 2 lots located at 1307 McKinley Street by June Straka. Applicant June Straka, agent Eric Schmitz. And again, a presentation by Jim Ranke.
Thank you again. This 2-lot CSM is located on the south side on the intersection of Green Tree Road and McKinley Street. The purpose of the CSM is to redivide the 2.2 acres into 2 lots. The properties are zoned RS3, single family residential, and again, they both comply to the zoning requirements for the RS3 district. Lot 1 will have access to Green Tree Road, and Lot 2 has an existing driveway on McKinley. Sanitary sewer and water are available to the new lot, which is going to be Lot 1. And Lot 2 is the house, or is the vacant, or is the, I should say the house, is the property with the house located on it. Due to the new lot being created, staff would recommend that prior to the issuance of the building permit that a lot-specific grading plan be provided as a part of the building permit application. And staff would recommend approval with the one condition.
Thanks, Jim. Any questions for Jim? If there's no questions, I'll accept the motion on the item.
I make a motion to approve with the conditions outlined.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Not all those in favor, please signify by saying aye when your name is called. Alderman Caston,
Aye.
Alderman Jenkins,
Aye.
Alderman Dolnick.
Commissioner Dolnick, aye.
Sorry. Commissioner Fleischman. Commissioner Newman.
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Aye.
Commissioner Sparrow.
Aye.
Commissioner Marichal.
Aye.
Commissioner Hogaster.
Aye. Motion passes by unanimous vote.
Aye. Motion passes by unanimous vote.
All right, moving on to 4B, number 1,
Right, moving on to 4B, number 1,
certified survey map.
extraterritorial
SM
certified survey map. XSM
create 2 lots located in
-004.
northwest corner of County
Create 2 lots located in the northwest corner of County Road E, and Birchview Road, Robert and Janice Felker. Applicant Robert and Janice Felker, agent Michael Schleif. And again, a
Get him to
presentation
share
by
a
Jim.
screen, but I have to change this.
Thank you. This extraterritorial certified survey map is approximately a mile southwest of the city, at the northwest corner of County Trunk Highway Z and Birchview Road. The purpose of the CSM is to create 2 parcels. Parcel 2 is going to be retained by the current owner, and parcel 1 is to be acquired by the Cedar Lake Conservancy Foundation. The CSM is not within the sanitary sewer service area, but is still within the planning area and is identified as single-family residential in our 2020 comprehensive plan. Both lots are vacant. Parcel 1 will have access to County Trunk Highway Z, and it also fronts on Birchview Road. And parcel 2 has both frontage and access onto Birchview Road. Adequate right-of-way is provided for County Trunk Highway Z and is consistent with the city's official map. Minor technical corrections are needed prior to recording this CSM, and staff would recommend approval with the condition that those corrections are made prior to recording.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions for Jim?
Thank you, Jim. Any questions for Jim?
Move to approve with conditions listed.
Second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions?
If not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Caston.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Aye.
Commissioner Dolly.
Aye.
Commissioner Dolnick.
Fleischman.
Aye.
Commissioner Fleischman.
Aye.
Commissioner Newman.
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Aye.
Commissioner Scarrow. Commissioner Marichal.
Aye.
Commissioner Hollister. Aye. That motion
Commissioner
passes by
Hollister.
unanimous vote.
Aye. Motion passes by unanimous vote.
Item number two. XC.
Item number two. XCSM 20-006, create 3 lots located at the northwest corner of County Road Z and Toma Park Drive by Mark and Rita Brown,
Mark and Breeder Brown.
applicant Mark and Breeder Brown,
Schmitz.
agent Eric Schmitz,
And a presentation by Jim.
and a presentation by Jim.
All right, thank you again. This 3-lot certified survey map is again approximately a mile southwest of the city. It's actually just north of the previous CSM that was approved by the commission. It's on the west side of County Trunk Highway Z. The purpose of the CSM is to create 3 residential lots for sale. Again, this property is not within the city sanitary sewer service area, but it is in the planning area and is again identified as single-family residential in the 2020 comprehensive plan. Lots 1 and 2 are vacant, and lot 3 has an existing shed on it. Lots 1 and 2 will have a shared access onto County Trunk Highway Z, and lot 3 will have sole access onto Toma Park Drive. The CSM identifies a 5-foot reservation for County Trunk Highway Z, which is consistent with the city's official map. Staff would recommend approval of the CSM as it's presented.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions?
Thank you, Jim. Any questions for Jim?
Make a motion.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second.
All right, I have a motion and a second.
Comments?
Any questions or comments?
If none, all
If
those.
none, all those signify by saying aye.
Commissioner Caston.
Commissioner Caston,
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Commissioner Jenkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Dolly.
Commissioner Dolnick,
Commissioner
Aye.
Fleischman,
Commissioner Schmidt,
Aye.
Commissioner Newman.
Commissioner Newman,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Aye.
Commissioner Scarrow.
Commissioner Starl,
Aye.
Commissioner
Marichal.
Marichal,
Aye.
Commissioner
Commissioner
Hollister.
Hollister.
Aye.
Motion passes by unanimous vote.
Moving on
Moving
to
on to
item
item
C,
C,
site
site plans,
Sorry.
item C1, SB 20-008, redevelopment of commercial at 2334 West Washington Street by Title Max of Wisconsin Incorporated. Applicant Patricia Minovich, agent Ryan Weems, and again, a presentation by Jim.
He keeps
Thank you. I'm going to try to share the CSM or the site plan submission so you can see exactly what we're talking about in this presentation. So give me 1 minute here. Let's see if we can get this stuff.
Hey, nice.
Sorry about that.
All right.
Fortunately, it's not working the way it should.
We can see the one map, Jim.
Okay, yeah, it's not showing up the way it should have been, unfortunately. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not showing up the right way. I'm gonna have to
share? Would you like me to try to share my screen, Jim?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do with mine. That's just not. We shared it before. It was only asking for a file. Yeah, it only gave me this. And now I don't know how to get rid of that. Sorry about this. Yeah, it was the same. It's not allowing me to share my screen like it did earlier today. Okay. What I'll do is I'll just go ahead and do the brief for the project, and we'll keep working on the video part or the graphic part. So this site plan is for the architectural building renovations over at 2334 West Washington Street. It used to be the old Midas building. So Title Max of Wisconsin has plans submitted for interior and exterior renovations for the site. The site itself isn't going to be altered. So the property is zoned B1, and as a change of use in there, the office use requires 7 parking stalls and one stall for each employee on the largest shift. The site has 16 barrier-free stalls, or 16 stalls and 1 barrier-free stall provided. 3 of those parking stalls are doubled up, so they could not be counted as customer stalls, but with those 3 removed from the count, we still have adequate parking for that development. Since those 3 stalls wouldn't be counted for employee or for customer parking, it could be removed and turned over to green space. So if the commission would feel that it's, needed or acceptable, and parking is not warranted for the double parking, we could have a condition to have that pavement removed, but again, it's not a requirement. The architectural building elevations that are provided show that the west side of the building is being renovated. So the overhead doors will be removed and replaced with the front windows and a new entrance for the building. The concrete block building is proposed to be painted white, and then a blue accent band is going to be painted across the upper portion of the building. The architectural elevations also show the signage on the building, a sign on the west side and on the south side of the building. Both of those signs are in compliance with the code, and those permits have also been submitted for and approved. and the existing monument sign will be reused and just changed over for Title Max. Staff would recommend approval of the site plan.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions for Jim?
Jim, I wanted to know if the property owner has mentioned anything about his parking lot. Was that their wish to remove that pavement in that area that you described?
No, there was no request to remove the pavement. Staff just made that recommendation since it is double parking. The only way it's really usable is if it was used for, say, employees. So there's really no control of allowing customers to actually use that that double parking, unless again it was used for employees that would know that since they control the timing coming and going for that area.
Okay, but there would not be then any concern with leaving it paved as it is today?
No, it exists today from the previous site plans that we had, so it could still remain.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Not, I'll entertain a motion on the item.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Commissioner Gaston,
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Dolnick,
Aye.
Commissioner Fleischman,
Aye.
Commissioner Newman,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Aye.
Commissioner Sparrow,
Aye.
Commissioner Marichal,
Aye.
Commissioner Hogister, aye. Motion passes by unanimous vote. Item number 2, SP 20007, site plan for wall sign exemption. 2 additional wall signs on the east and west side of the building, 1955 West Washington Street, by Sign Effects Incorporated. Applicant Greg Dvorkin, agent Jared Rose. And again, a presentation by Jim.
Thank you. This is for a wall sign exception for the Verizon building at 1955 West Washington Street. Back in May of last year, the Plan Commission approved the site plan for phase 1 of this development. The original proposal has building pads for this development. Verizon was the first one to build on that far east building pad. And as a condition of the approval, we had that the building signage have be reduced to 2 wall signs. At the time of the approvals for the sign permits, the building or the property owner decided to go for the north and south sides of the building and eliminated the east and west sides for the wall signs. As a condition, though, we did offer that if the property owner, the building owner, wanted to apply for an exception, we had to come to the commission for the exception for the east and west walls. So Sign Effects, on behalf of Verizon Wireless, has submitted an exception letter and the plans. So they are requesting a 66.37 square foot wall sign on the east side of the building and also on the west side of the building. Staff had reviewed the request and has made a recommendation to the commission that the sign exception would not be warranted based on the existing site distances and sight lines and the effectiveness of the sign. Staff did note in the staff memo for this that on the west side of the building, We felt that it wasn't warranted since there's going to be a second building being built in place and would be essentially blocking that west side of the view of the building. And it's also noted that there is a coordinated development sign on that property. And the Verizon store does have a panel in there or on that development sign. And that panel can be viewed from eastbound and westbound traffic as it drives by. On the east side of the building, staff again felt it wasn't warranted based on the majority of the existing building to the east blocks that building for the majority of the view. The sign really isn't seen until you get past the intersection of 18th Avenue and West Washington Street. And any traffic that's heading northbound on 18th Avenue would see the sign that's existing on the south side of the building. So also when you're driving to get it to the site, if you're driving westbound on Washington Street, the cars actually do have to turn around anyways to come back to the building, since that driveway on Washington Street is a right in and right out only. So based on these recommendations that we had and the review that we did, staff would recommend that, or feels that the additional signage isn't really warranted for the development. I do have the sign contractor here if the commission has any other comments or questions for this. And then they do have some responses to the staff memo also.
Thank you, Jim. Any comments? Any commissioners or any representatives? Any commissioners or representatives?
Yeah, they're going to have their comments.
Good evening, sir. Would you like to identify?
Good evening, sir. Would you like to identify yourself? Tell us if you have anything on your mind.
No.
I'm sorry. My name is Don Numerdor. I'm with Sign Effects of Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Is there anything that you wanted to tell us, or any questions from the commissioners for?
Is there anything that you wanted to tell us, or any questions from the commissioner for?
Yeah, he's in.
Well, I appreciate it being able to be heard. Verizon has a very careful plan on their national branding guidelines for their stores, especially their freestanding stores. They have signs on all four walls, or any signs that are walls that are viewable from developments. Obviously, it's a back wall and facing nothing, that they wouldn't put one there. Very important for them to have this branding consistent throughout the nation. I wanted to make a point to the staff comments as far as the first one is west elevation. The sign faces the parking lot, which is one of the important areas for Verizon to have a sign on, all that's facing a parking lot at an entrance. So they really want that. Sign is going to be visible even with the new building that they might build there. When you're driving down the road going east, you'll definitely see that sign. The development sign has been noted that you can see that going either direction on the road. Really, you can't. That sign is so small for Verizon's tenant space. It's really not that much of an identifier until you're right on top of it. And thirdly, the east side, we feel you can see it really good from the intersection, and a lot better than you'll see the south side sign at that point, and from 18th Avenue over by Sendik's as you're driving through, and if you're in the development with the Starbucks and the bank there. I had a whole bunch of pictures to give to you too, but I didn't know we were doing this way. The other point that Verizon wanted me to make was the approvals that have been apparently given by the commission or staff for additional signage at other locations. Point taken would be the Quick Trips. Both sites have two signs on both sides, or one on each side of the building, and 3 signs on the canopies, along with their freestanding signs. Both of those have, in my opinion, 5 building signs. You have other locations like McDonald's. Both the McDonald's stores, one across the street from here, as well as the one on 33, have more than 2 wall signs. The Aldi's, the AutoZone. I guess they're just looking to have the same opportunity to follow their national branding and have the additional signs on the building to complete their image. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from any of the commissioners?
Thank you, sir. Any questions from any of the commissioners?
Mayor? Steve?
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
There appear to be 2 issues here. One is visibility and the other is branding. And I'm not too impressed with the argument about branding. We've heard that argument before, and it's nice that a company decides that they want to do certain branding and imaging, but that doesn't mean they should be able to impose it on every municipality. In this case, Verizon knew what the rules were coming into this, and now they're saying, well, the sign we agreed to on the monument sign there isn't big enough. Well, they knew ahead of time. They also knew ahead of time that these additional signs were going to be a problem. Yes, I think the commission has granted probably 95% of the sign exception requests, but I think that they've been more reasonable than this. This is a 35-mile-per-hour road on Washington Street, and if a driver coming down Washington Street doesn't see that that's Verizon with the lettering on the front of that building, then they shouldn't be driving.
Thanks, Jed.
I agree with Commissioner
Jed.
Dolnick.
Anyone
I agree
else?
with Commissioner Dolnick and the city on this one. I don't feel the sign exception is necessary.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you. Anyone else?
If not, I would look for a motion on the item.
If not, I would look for a
Motion to
on the
deny
item.
the exception request?
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a
Second.
second. Is there any other comments or questions?
Actually, I do, Steve. Question for Mark or Jim. The idea that the gentleman brought up with regards to other facilities having signs on all 4, how are we working that for standard conformity? I mean, I'm trying to figure out how we approach that to make sure that it's standard across all requests. You understand what I'm asking?
Jim, I'll jump in here if you don't mind. The code has the basic parameters. We try to adhere to those basic parameters unless there's a design exception that warrants because of a deficiency. Some of the ones that were cited were under either different sets of rules or they were approved with signage exceptions granted specifically given those parameters. I'll give you an example. It's not a building sign, or a building sign, but the sign for a Quick Trip along 45 was granted for a different sign type and a height exception because of the specific design issues of that site. The topographic, it basically visually is not excessively high, it is not excessively large, given its proximity to for where the view is occurring. So we basically have recommended to the Plan Commission in the past that those design exceptions be pointed out and made part of the site plan approval. They did not choose to do so in this case. We basically offered the option for them to come back for this so that the existing signage could be evaluated as well once it was actually constructed, and that you could make those determinations if there was any deficiency or that need to be addressed on this site with the additional signage. Otherwise, we don't feel the design exception to exceed the city's number and size of signs is warranted in this case.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Any other comments or questions?
If not, we have a motion and a second
Not, we have a motion and a second not to allow the code exemption. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Alderman Caston? Alderman Jenkins?
I'm gonna say no.
Commissioner Jenkins? Alderman Dolnick? Commissioner Dolnick?
Aye.
Commissioner Fleischman?
Aye.
Commissioner Newman?
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Aye.
Commissioner Starl?
Aye.
Commissioner Marshall?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 8-1. And being no further business before the planning commission, I would adjourn. Good night, everyone.